Uh, Hi everyone, it's me Salman, and in this video I will be designing a complete responsive website using HTML5 and CSS3. So I will not going to be using any framework like Bootstrap, so I will be using only HTML5 and CSS3 for designing this layout. Okay, so at the top we have a navigation. So inside the navigation we have a logo, and on the right side we have some links. Okay, and then we have this main slider. So as you can see, the slider is changing by itself, and you can change the slider by clicking on these nav buttons, or you can change the slider by clicking on these dots. Okay, so after the slider we have this about us section. Inside the about us section we have an image and some text and a call to action button on the right side. Okay, so after that we have this services section. So as you can see, when I hover on these services, you can see the effect. And after the services section we have this portfolio. So we have these different portfolio items, and as you can see on the hover, you can see the effect. Okay, so after that we have the team section. We have these different team members and information of these team members, like his or her name and what that person is. Okay, so after that we have testimonials, the review section. So we have slider over here also, and you can change the slider by clicking on these nav icons or nav buttons. And then we have the blog post section. So as you can see, we have the same effect right here. Okay, and after the blog section we have this contact us section. So we have the contact us information and the contact us form, and after that we have this map, and finally a footer. So this website is completely responsive. So let me show you this website on different viewport width. So I'm going to show this on laptop. So as you can see, 1024 pixel. So as you can see, this is responsive, and I'm going to change the viewport width to the tablet. So as you can see, when I switched the width to the tablet, so as you can see the navigation bar, it changes like this. And if you click on this hamburger menu, so the navigation links appears, and if you click on this again, it goes to the left side and it disappears. Okay, so as you can see on the tablet, it is looking perfect. Okay, awesome. So I will be designing this from the very beginning, and you will learn how you will be able to design after watching this video, or to design a responsive website or template. Okay, so let me show you this on mobile. This is completely responsive. Okay guys, so without further ado, let's get into the video and design a website like this. So let's get started. In the starter template, I have already included all those files. So the first is for the remix icons, and these two are for the all carousel, and this is for the custom CSS file. And I have included the jQuery CDN link and the all carousel and the main.js file, which is our custom.js file. So let's get started. So I'm gonna visit to the style.css file. Okay, and here I'm gonna reset some of the CSS properties. So before doing that, what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna create a navigation. So I'm gonna create a nav tag. I'm going to give a class Navbar. Okay, here I'm going to create a container and I'm going to put a logo, and I'm going to call it logo. So I'm going to set the image to logo light, logo light. Okay, logo light dot svg. Okay, here I'm going to create another div, and I'm going to give a class Navbar navigation, and I'm going to create an order list here. I'm going to give a class nav items, and here I'm going to create list item, and I'm going to create a class. I'm going to name this class nav item. So this will be home. Okay, I'm going to duplicate this. So the link for this will to be home, and this will go to, this will be about, this will go to the about section. This will be services. This link will be portfolio. This will be team block. Okay, so let's see on the finished project. Home, services, team block, and contact. Okay, I'm going to set this to services. Portfolio. Okay, and this link will go to the team section. This will go to the blog, and this will go to contact us section. Okay, so if a user click on this link, so this will go to the about section. Awesome. And here I'm going to create a div. So I'm going to give a class nav I'm going to give a nav toggler. Okay, and here I'm going to put an icon. So I'm going to search for menu. I'm going to copy this icon. I'm going to paste it right here. Okay, so I'm going to design the navigation. So before designing the navigation, so I'm going to reset some of the properties. So I'm going to remove all the padding, the default padding to 0, and margin 0, and I'm going to set display border box. Border box box sizing, box sizing to border box. Okay, so I'm going to open this file with live server. Okay, so we don't have that extra space. Okay, then I'm going to select the body tag. I'm going to change the font family to Poppins. Okay, so I already have included this link, and if this font is not available, then the font will be sans serif, and I'm going to change the color for the body text to 777, and I'm going to change the line height to 1.8, and I'm going to give a font size 16 pixel. Okay, then I'm going to select all the heading H6, H6. I'm going to give a font weight 700, and I'm going to give a color 222. Okay, and I'm going to select the anchor tag. I'm going to remove the text decoration, none. Okay, and then I'm gonna give a transition 0.4 second ease, and on hover the color will be brand color. So the brand color hexa value is B3040D. Okay, and then I'm gonna select the image. The width is going to be 100%. Okay, and then I'm gonna select the paragraph text. I'm gonna give a margin bottom 16 pixel, and also I'm gonna give a line height to the heading. So line height 1.2. Okay, so I'm going to design the navigation. Before designing the navigation, so I'm going to create a class container. I'm going to set the width to 100%, and I'm going to give a maximum width to 1140 pixel. Okay, and I want the container to be in the center of the screen, so I'm going to say margin top bottom 0 and left and right auto. Okay, so as you can see, we have this container, and the width is going to be 1200 pixel. Okay, so then I'm gonna target the section tag, and I'm gonna give a padding top 80 pixel and padding bottom 80 pixel. Okay, and yeah, that's it for now. So I'm going to select the navigation navbar class, navbar, and I'm going to change the background color to completely black. Okay, then I'm going to select a logo. I'm going to set the width to unset. Okay, and I'm going to set the display property to flex. Okay, I'm going to select the logo, and then I'm going to select the image. I'm going to set the width to unset. Okay, so I'm going to select the nav items. Okay, before designing this navigation and these nav links, so what I'm going to do, I'm going to design the navigation links. So I'm going to target nav items, and then I'm going to select nav item. Okay, so I have selected this nav item class, and then I have selected this nav item, which is this one, this anchor. Okay, and I'm going to change the color to white, and I'm going to remove the bullet point from the unordered list. List style none. Okay, I'm going to reduce the opacity to something like 0.7 or 0.6, and I'm going to give a transition 0.4 second ease, and .nav items .nav item on hover. I'm going to change the color to the brand color or white color. Okay, looking cool. And I'm going to design this hamburger menu. So I'm going to target this nav toggler. I'm going to give a width 54 pixel and height 54 pixel, and I want the icon to be in this center, so I'm going to say display flex align item center, justify content center. Okay, and I'm going to give a background color to just I'm going to set the background color to white for now, and I'm going to increase the font size for the icon, so I'm going to say font size 22 pixel. Okay, looking cool. And I'm going to give a transition all 0.3 second. 3 second is not is okay. And on hover, I'm going to change the background color. On hover, I'm going to change the background color to be the brand color and the text color to be white. Okay, looking cool. 3 seconds. Okay, and I'm going to set the cursor to pointer. Okay, looking cool. So now I'm going to design this navigation. So I want this logo to be on the left side and these nav links to be on the right side, and this will also be on the right side. So here I'm going to select Navbar. I'm going to select the container. Okay, and I'm going to set the display property to flex. Okay, and I'm going to set the justify content space between. Okay, I'm going to hide the nav toggler for now. I'm going to set the display property to none. Okay, and I'm going to set align items center. Okay, then I'm going to select the nav items class, nav items. Okay, I want this to be horizontally nav items, so I'm going to say display flex. Okay, and I'm going to give a margin left 24 pixel, so we have some space now, as you can see. And as you can see, the logo is touching, the logo is not in the middle of the navigation bar. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to say display, I'm going to select the nav logo. I'm going to say display flex and align item center, and I'm going to set the flex property to none. So I don't want the navigation logo to shrink when this screen size gets smaller, so I'm going to say flex to none. Okay, so as you can see, this is now in the middle of the navigation. So I'm going to increase the height for the navigation. So I'm going to give some padding to padding top, let's say 16 pixel. Padding bottom 16 pixel. I'm going to increase to something like 20 for now, and I'm going to adjust spacing later. So I'm going to select nav item. I'm going to set the text transform property to uppercase. Okay, and I'm going to give a font weight to something like 600, and I'm going to increase the font size 13 pixel. I'm going to give a letter spacing 0.5 pixel. Okay, so let me resize the window. So here as you can see, when the screen size gets smaller, the navigation link is touching the border of the browser. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna give a padding to the container, padding left 24 pixel, padding right 24 pixel, 24 pixel. Okay, so as you can see, so what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna say at media, when the screen size is equal to 768 pixel or less than, then what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna target nav items. Okay, so let's see if this media query is working. So I'm gonna say Navbar. Okay, I'm gonna change the background color to red. It's not working. Okay, so this should be maximum width width. So as you can see, when browser window hits this breakpoint, the background color for the navigation bar changes. So what I'm gonna do at this breakpoint, I'm gonna target nav items, okay, and I'm gonna set the position to absolute. Okay, so I'm gonna give a background color for now. I'm gonna give background color black, or I'm gonna give a background color red. Save it, and I'm gonna set the width to 100%. Okay, from the top to 100%, and from the left to 0. Okay, so I'm gonna give a position relative to the container class here, position relative. Okay, and I want the item to be vertically, so I'm gonna change the flex direction. So here, when the screen size is width is larger than 768 pixel, so the direction for the flex is row. So I'm going to change the flex direction to column. Okay, so as you can see, it is now displaying like this. Okay, so I want to increase the space between these nav items. So I'm going to give a padding to padding top something like 24 pixel, and also padding bottom 24 pixel, and I'm going to increase the space between these nav items. So I'm going to select nav item, then I'm going to target the nav item class. I'm going to give margin top, let's say 16 pixel. I'm going to set the display. So I want, at this breakpoint, I want this to be display block. Okay, and I'm going to reduce the spacing to be 8 pixel. So 8 pixel is looking fine, and now I'm going to show the hamburger menu. So here I'm going to say menu nav toggler, I think nav toggler display flex. Okay, so as you can see, the hamburger menu is shown. So what I'm going to do now, when I click on this hamburger menu, I want this navigation to be hidden. Okay, so I'm going to visit to the main.js file. So here I'm going to select nav toggler. When I click on the nav toggler, then I'm going to run this function. So let me check this if this is working or not. So I'm gonna alert something. Okay, so it is working. So then I'm gonna select nav items. Oh, so I think I don't need this navbar nav. Okay, so let me see. So I think I need, I'm going to remove this navbar nav. Okay, so I'm going to remove this navbar nav. Okay. So what I'm going to do at this breakpoint, nav item dot toggle class. So this will be show. So I want to toggle this show class when I click on this nav toggler. So I'm going to create. So I'm going to hide this navigation. So I'm going to say from the left side -100%. So I want to push this from the left side 100%. And when I click on that nav toggler, so I'm gonna set the show from the left side. I want to say 0 pixel. So let's see. So as you can see, it is working. So I need to give some transition. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna give a transition. So I'm gonna give a transition to the nav items. So here I'm gonna select nav. I'm going to set transition to all 0.4 second is. Okay, save it and refresh. So as you can see, we have this smooth effect. Okay, so as you can see, it is working fine. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to design the hero section. So for that, I'm going to search for all carousel. Okay, I'm going to click on this demos link and I'm going to get the basic. Okay, so I'm going to copy this and I'm going to beautify this code. Okay, so here I'm going to create a class. So I'm going to create a class hero slider. Okay, and I'm gonna put so I'm gonna paste this here and I'm gonna give a class hero slider and I'm gonna remove some of the nav items and I'm gonna change this item class to slide. Okay, I'm gonna give this class slide. I'm gonna remove this text. For now I'm gonna remove that one also. Inside this slider I'm going to create a container. Okay, and I'm going to put h1 tag. So I'm going to say design. So I'm going to type design stunning websites and here I'm going to put some text lorem 16 or 18 and I'm going to put a button. I'm going to give a class button and the text will be get started. I'm going to create another button. So I'm going to duplicate this and the text will be for this one, contact us. Okay, so I'm going to copy this all carousel and here I'm going to type hero slider. Okay, I'm going to paste it right here and I'm going to change this to the hero slider. hero slider. Okay, and I don't need this margin, so I want the margin to be 0. Okay, and I'm gonna comment these for now. Okay, and I want the dots to be true. Okay, so here's the thing, these are the nav items. Okay, and these are the nav dots. Okay, so as you can see, the slider is working. Okay, so I want to show only one item on every breakpoint, so I'm going to type items, save it and refresh. So as you can see, we have only one item. Awesome. So I'm going to design the hero section. I'm going to create a comment for the hero section. This will be hero. I'm gonna select the slide class. Okay, so this class, I'm gonna set the minimum height to 100 VH. Okay, and I'm gonna change the background image URL, image class bg, I think it's bg1, yeah, bg1. Okay, and so as you can see, this is not the image, I think it's cover 1, yeah, cover 1, and I want the background position to be center. Okay, and background size to be cover. Okay, looking great. So what I want to do, I want the item to be in the center of the screen. Okay, so what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna say display to flex. Okay, align item center. Okay, and justify content center, and text align center as well. Okay, then I'm going to select slide, I'm going to select H1, I'm going to change the color to white and what I'm going to do now, so I'm going to change the color for the text to white. Awesome. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to increase the size for the heading, so I'm going to create H1 class. So the size is going to be, font size going to be 54 pixel. Okay, and I'm going to create another class, this will be H2, and the size is going to be 32 pixel. This is going to be H3, size is going to be 28 pixel. So for this, the size is going to be 36, and the class name is going to be H3, and I'm going to create another class, size is going to be 24. Okay, and I'm going to create another class, this is going to be H5, H4 and H5. So I don't need this class, I think I need this class, this will be H5, and the font size is going to be 18 pixel. Awesome. So I'm gonna give a class H1. Okay, so as you can see, the text size is large, and I'm gonna set the text transform property to uppercase for the heading one. Uppercase, and I want to give some margin. So here I'm going to select all these heading. I'm going to give a margin bottom 10 pixel. Okay, and then I'm going to select paragraph, slide paragraph. I'm going to give a margin top 24 pixel. Okay, margin bottom 32 pixel. Okay, then I'm gonna give a maximum width to 600 pixel or 700, and I want this to be in the center, so I'm gonna give margin left auto and margin right auto. I'm gonna save it and refresh. Awesome. So I'm gonna design these buttons. So I'm gonna select the button class. I'm gonna give a padding 14 pixel and 32 pixel. Okay, I'm gonna set the display property to inline block, and I'm gonna change the color to white, and I'm gonna give a background color brand color. I'm gonna give a border as well, so I'm gonna give a border 2 pixel solid brand color. Awesome. Okay, so I'm gonna decrease the padding to something like 12 pixel. Okay, so I think 10 pixel will be fine. Okay, and I'm gonna set the font size to 13 pixel and font weight to 600 and text transform uppercase. So the text will be uppercase. Okay, I'm gonna give a letter spacing 0.5 pixel. Okay, nice. And I'm going to increase this to 12 pixels, so I think 12 pixel is okay, and I'm going to decrease the spacing to 28. Awesome. So I'm going to add another class to this button, so I'm going to give a class btn outline light. Okay, so I'm going to select this class, and I'm going to give a box shadow to the button class as well. So box shadow, variable box shadow. Okay, and I'm going to give a transition as well. Okay, so and I'm going to select this button class, outline button. I'm going to give a border color to white. Okay, I'm going to remove the background color from this one, transparent, and on hover I want the background color to be white. Okay, so I'm going to select this button class on button hover on this class, which is common for both these buttons. So I'm going to change the color to be white. Okay, I'm going to change the color, the background color to white on hover, background color to white, and the text color to dark. Okay, so I don't have the variable so I'm going to give a dark color like this color. Okay, and on hover I'm going to say transform, translate y. I'm I'm going to push it from the y-axis 5 pixel. So as you can see, let's set this to 3 pixel. Okay, looking cool. And I'm gonna give a box shadow. So from this this is going to be 0, and from the y-axis is going to be 4 pixel, and the blur is going to be 20 pixel, and I'm going to give a dark color 0.1. Okay, so the shadow is not looking clear on this background, so it will be looking clear on white background. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to duplicate this slider. Okay, so what I'm going to do, I'm going to duplicate the slide, and I'm going to add another class. So this will be slide 2. So I'm going to copy this slide 2, and I'm going to paste it right here. So I'm going to copy this slide class, and I'm going to rename this to slide 2, and I'm going to change the background cover to 2, and I'm going to remove some of these properties. Okay, I'm going to save it and refresh. So as you can see, we have this 2 slider. So as you can see, the slider is changing very fast. So I'm going to slow the animation. So I'm going to say smart speed to like 1 second. Okay, so this should be column, comma. Okay, so if I change this to smart speed, so as you can see, the slider is changing very slowly. So I'm gonna set this to 1 millisecond. Okay, looking cool now. So I want this nav to be in the center of this screen. Okay, so for that I'm gonna change. So first I'm gonna change the color for the navigation. So inside the reset, okay, inside the reset section, so I'm gonna click on these nav icons, click on inspect, and then I'm gonna click on the, so I'm gonna copy this text, these classes, okay, and I'm gonna paste it right here. So this will be for the previous button. I'm gonna copy and I'm gonna paste it, and this will be for the next button. Okay, so I'm gonna give a width and height. Okay, so here it is. So I'm gonna give a width 60 pixel. I'm gonna give a height 60 pixel as well, and I'm gonna set display to flex, align item center. So I want this to be display inline flex, so inline flex. Okay, so as you can see, and I want the content to be in the center, so I'm going to say align item center and justify content center. Save it and refresh. So as you can see, so I want to change the icon for the navigation for this nav button. So I'm gonna type nav text. Okay, so this should be an array. So I'm gonna type preview, and this will be next. I'm gonna save it and refresh. So as you can see, we have these text, but instead of these text I want to put an icon, and I'm gonna search for the arrow. Okay, so I'm gonna copy this arrow for the left icon, copy it, and here I'm gonna paste it. So I'm gonna paste it, and this should be single quotation, so wrap this in single quotation, and I'm gonna paste it right here. And for the next, the icon should be right. Save it and refresh. So as you can see, the icon has now changed. Okay, and I'm gonna give a background color for this new button. So I'm gonna give a background color. It should be like F4. Save it. So as you can see, we have this background, light background color, and I'm gonna make it a bit dark, sorry. Okay, something like this, and I'm gonna set the border radius to 0. Okay, and I'm gonna increase the font size to 24 pixel. Okay, awesome. So on hover state, I want to change the color for the background, so I'm gonna select this, I'm gonna paste it, and on hover I want to change the background color to be this brand color, and the text color should be white. Okay, so as you can see, looking awesome. And as you can see here, we don't have some space between the buttons, so I'm gonna increase the space between the buttons. So I'm gonna search for here slide. I'm gonna give a margin left, let's say 4 pixel, margin right 4 pixel. So I'm gonna give a margin 4 pixel from every side, margin 4 pixel. Okay, so we have some space now. Awesome. So I want these nav item to be in the center of the screen of this hero section. So what I'm gonna do, hero slider, and I'm gonna set the position to relative. Okay, so let me just copy that class. Okay, the class is, so I'm gonna copy this class, and I'm gonna paste it right here, and I'm gonna duplicate this, and this should be next. Okay, I'm gonna set the position property to absolute, and from the top 50%. Okay, so as you can see, so what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna select the first nav button, and I'm gonna say from the left side is going to be 0. Okay, so as you can see, and the other one should be from the right side is going to be 0, and this should be nav next. Okay, save it and refresh. So as you can see, we have these two buttons, but here I want to change the background color, and on hero slider, so what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna change the background color to, let's say, pink, and I'm gonna set the background color to transparent. Okay, I'm gonna give a border color, border 2 pixel solid white. Okay, and on hover, so on hover I'm gonna change the background color, and border color to I'm going to change the border color. So border color is going to be the brand color. Okay, so as you can see, looking awesome. And also I want to change these nav dots on active state. So I'm going to right click on these nav icons, and then I'm going to select this one. So I'm going to select this class. Okay, I'm going to copy, and where is the reset? So in the reset section, here it is. So I'm going to paste it. Nav dot dot. Okay, so let me see. So as you can see, we have this span. So I'm going to select this span. Okay, I'm going to set the width to let's say 16 pixel, height 16 pixel. Okay, I'm going to change the background color to red for now, which is not working. So let me see. So why it is not working? So all dot, then I'm going to select, I'm going to give a background color red. So as you can see, so I'm going to select the span. Okay, nice. And so on the active, so I'm going to change the background color on the active state, but for now I'm going to increase the width to something like 14 pixel and the height 14 pixel. So as you can see, and I'm going to change this color to the brand color on active state. So when the old dot has a class of active, then I'm going to change, then I'm going to select the span tag, and I'm going to change the background color for the active icon. So as you can see, awesome. So I want to push these nav dots to here. So I'm going to select slide. Okay, so I'm going to select the all dot. So I'm going to copy this, and here I'm going to paste it. So I'm going to change this to hero slider. Okay, then I'm going to remove these, and I'm going to select this all dots, which is the wrapper of these dots. So I'm going to set the position property to fixed, absolute. Okay, from the bottom 30 pixel. Okay, and from the left side 50%, and I'm going to say translate X. So to make sure this is exactly on bit in the center of the screen. So as you can see, looking great. Awesome. So also I want to change the color for the icon, hero icon. So I'm gonna say, sorry, not hero icon, I mean the color for this nav icon color. So I'm gonna say color white. Okay, and I'm gonna reduce the the opacity for the border color, something like 0.3. Save it. So as you can see, so from the left side is going to be 24 pixel and from the right side is going to be 24 pixel. Okay, so as you can see, it is now alignment to the container. Okay, awesome. So now I want this navigation to be on the top of this hero section. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to select Navbar. I'm going to set the position property to absolute, and I'm going to set the width to 100%. Okay, from the top 0. Okay, so okay, from the top 0 I'm going to give a z index something like 999. Okay, I'm going to remove the background color for now. Okay, so as you can see, and I'm going to give a border color, so I'm going to give border bottom 1 pixel solid. The color is going to be white. I'm going to reduce the opacity to 0.1. So 0.1 is looking awesome. So if the screen size gets smaller, so I'm going to change the background color to be, so as you can see at this breakpoint, I want to change the background color for the navigation to something like dark. Okay, so what you can do, you can say add media. Okay, so when the screen size is equal to 768 pixel or less than, then I'm going to target the navigation bar, and I'm going to change the background color for the navigation to this color. So as you can see, and also I'm going to change the background color for these nav items. So here it is. So I'm going to change the background color to white. Not white, I think dark will be fine. Okay, awesome. Looking great. So our hero and navigation is finally finished. So I'm going to design the About Us section, which is going to be pretty simple. So I'm going to create a section. Inside this section, I'm going to create a container. Inside the container, I'm going to create a class 2 column grid. Okay. So in the first column, I'm going to put an image, working image, and in the second column, this will be content. So I'm going to give an ID about. Okay, so here it is, the about us section. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to copy the text from the finished project. So here it is, the finished project. I'm going to copy this text, and I'm going to say h2, and I'm going to give a class h2. So for the sizing, so I want the text sizing to be like this, and I'm going to copy the text, and I'm going to put here inside a paragraph, and I'm going to copy the text from here. Okay, so I'm going to paste it right here. I'm going to save it, and I'm going to refresh the page. Okay, so as you can see, which is looking like this, and I'm gonna put a button below paragraph. So button, and I'm gonna set the text to our work. Okay, I think the shadow for the button is not looking clear, so I'm gonna find the button class, and I'm going to increase the shadow to something like 0.5. So as you can see, and on hover, I'm gonna say box shadow to none. Okay, and I'm going to increase the spread to something like 40, the blur, or 30. 20 I think is looking good, is looking fine. So as you can see, when I hover on this button, okay, awesome. So I'm going to design this 2-column grid. So for that, I'm going to come here to the helper classes. Okay, so here I'm going to select 2-column grid class. Okay, I'm going to set this to display grid. Okay, and grid template column. So I want to show only display 2 columns. Okay, so I'm going to type 1FR and 1FR. Okay, so as you can see, which is looking good, but not too much good. So I'm going to increase some spacing between the text and the image. So I'm going to say gap is going to be 24 pixel. Okay, so as you can see, and I want this content to be center, align item center. So as you can see, which is now vertically in the center of the screen. Okay, so let's see the responsiveness. So at this breakpoint, somehow I want the image to be the top and the text to be the bottom. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to say add media. Okay, then I'm going to say maximum width 992 pixel when the screen size is equal to this or smaller. Then I'm going to target the 2-column grid. Okay, and I want to show only 1 column. So as you can see, awesome. So that's it for the about us section. So I'm going to design. So I'm going to design this services section. So I'm going to create a section tag. I'm going to give ID services, and here I'm going to create a container. Inside this container, I'm going to create intro text. Okay, I'm going to create h1. I'm going to give h2 class for the sizing, for the text size. I'm going to say our services. And I'm going to copy the text from this finished project. So I'm going to copy, and here I'm going to paste the text. Okay, and okay, so let's see. So I'm going to select the intro texts. So here I'm going to select here intro text. Okay, I'm going to set the maximum width to something like 600 pixel, and I'm going to set the margin. Okay, so from the top is going to be 0, from the left side is going to be auto, from the bottom is going to be, let's say, 40 pixel, and from the left side is going to be auto. from the right side. So as you can see, the text is in the center, and I want to give a text align center. Okay, looking good. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to create another so this time I'm going to create a 3-column grid. Okay, so I'm going to put service class. Okay, I'm going to create icon box. Here I'm going to put an icon. So I'm going to search for pen, and I'm going to copy this icon, which is very cool icon, and I'm going to paste it right here. Okay, and here I'm going to put h3, and I'm going to, for the sizing, I'm going to give h4 class. I'm going to give typography, and here I'm going to paste some text. So I'm going to copy the text from the finished project. So copied, and here I'm going to paste it. Okay, so I'm going to design this. I'm going to design this here. So I'm going to remove this about. Okay, so I'm going to design the service. Before designing this service, so I'm going to define the grid. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to copy this grid. Okay, so here I'm going to rename this to 3-column grid, and I want to repeat I want to display 3 column. Okay, this should be 3 column as well. So as you can see, so you can use a short method for this. So you can type repeat. Okay, so I want to repeat 3 columns, and the size is 1FR. So as you can see, the same effect. Okay, so here it is. I'm gonna design the service. So I'm gonna select service. Okay, and I'm gonna give a padding something like 24 pixel. Okay, and I'm gonna select icon box. Okay, I'm gonna set the font size to something like 46 pixel. Okay, I'm gonna change the color to brand color. Okay, I'm gonna set a position to relative, and I'm gonna set the display to inline block, and I'm gonna give a width and height. Before doing this, so let me give a text align for the service center. Okay, so I'm gonna give a position relative. Sorry, I have already given that property. So I'm gonna select icon box, and I'm gonna select after. So as you can see, we have this gradient effect below the icon. So I'm gonna do that, and also I'm gonna give a z index to 2. Okay, I'm gonna set position to absolute from the top to like 100% for now, and from the left side 100%. Okay, I'm going to change the background color to pink for now, and I'm going to set the content to nothing, and I'm gonna change the color to black for now. So let's see why this is not showing. Okay, top. Okay, so I'm gonna give a width and height as well. So I forgot to do that. So I'm gonna give a width, let's say 50 pixel, and height 50 pixel. Okay, so from the top I want this to be like 50% and 40%, and I'm going to set the z index to -1. From the top is going to be 48. Okay, 48 is looking good, and I'm going to give a gradient color. So I'm going to say background linear gradient. So I'm going to say, so I'm going to copy this color. Okay, I'm going to paste this color once again, and I'm going to reduce the opacity to something like this. Save it. So as you can see, we have that effect, and also I'm going to reduce the opacity for this icon, for this color, sorry, something like this, 0.7. So as you can see, we have that effect. So I'm going to decrease the fonts, the width to 40. Okay, and I'm going to increase the size for the icon to something like 54 pixel. Okay, 54 pixel is awesome. And then I'm going to select service let's say H3, and I'm going to say from the margin top, I'm going to say 24 pixel. 24 is too much, so I think 16 will be fine. Yeah, 16 is looking good. And on hover, I want to achieve this effect. Okay, so as you can see, so what I'm going to do, I'm going to create a helper class for that effect. So here I'm going to create that class. So I'm going to call hover effect. I'm going to set the transition to 0.4 second ease. Okay, and on hover, I want to push this card, transform, translate y, -5 pixel, and I'm going to give a background color, box shadow to 0, 4 pixel, 10 pixel RGBA. Okay, so I'm going to set the opacity to 0.1. So I'm going to add this class to this service box. Okay, so this should be hover effect. So as you can see, we have this effect, but the shadow is not looking very clear, so I'm gonna reduce the opacity to 0.2. So I think which is looking fine, and I'm gonna decrease the blur to 20. So as you can see, which is looking fine. So I'm gonna duplicate this service. So I'm going to change the icon. So I'm going to search for, so I'm going to copy this, I'm going to paste it right here. Oops, should be service, another service, so I'm going to call it another service. Okay, so I'm gonna push this background effect to, it is a bit so I'm gonna search for service. Okay, so here it is. So I'm gonna, from the top is going to be 44. Yeah, 44 is looking good. So I'm gonna duplicate this service icons, sorry, these services. Okay, so as you can see, we have that cool effects. So I'm gonna change the icon for the rest of the others. So I'm gonna search for remix icon. So I'm gonna select some random icons. Okay. Okay, so I have changed the icons. So for a second, simple. Okay, so I have changed the icon. So let's see the responsiveness for the service boxes. So as you can see, on large devices it is looking fine. Okay, so here is the problem, but when the screen size gets smaller like this, so as you can see here, I want to display only I want to display 2 items. So I'm going to search for 3 column grid. Okay, so at this breakpoint I want to display 2 items. Okay, but when the screen size gets smaller, like 5, so I'm going to type 500 pixel. So I want to display only 1 item. So as you can see, at this breakpoint we have shown 2 items, but when it gets smaller, so I'm going to type 560 pixel. Okay, looking great. So after that, I'm going to design the portfolio section. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to collapse this and I'm going to create a section. Give ID portfolio. Okay, and here I'm going to create a container. I'm going to copy the intro text. Okay, and here I'm going to paste it. So I'm going to change the text to our portfolio. Okay, and I'm going to design this portfolio section. So here I'm going to create, I'm going to say portfolio slider. This will be portfolio item. I'm going to put an image here. Image portfolio 1, and I'm going to put overlay. I'm going to put H2 and the size is going to be H4, and here I'm going to type web design. Okay, and the project type is going to be design, and I'm going to create a button. This will be portfolio button. Okay, and I'm going to put an icon here. So I'm going to search for arrow. So the arrow that I have used is this one, so I'm going to copy this arrow and I'm going to paste it right here. Okay, so then I'm going to add these two classes. So the first one is all carousel and all theme. Okay, then I'm going to duplicate this slider, hero slider. I'm going to paste it right here, so this will be portfolio slider. Okay, so I'm gonna remove this item, so I'm gonna select all these. I'm gonna press Ctrl /. I'm gonna uncomment these. Okay, at 1140 breakpoint, or sorry, 992 breakpoint, I want to show 3 items. At this breakpoint, I want to show 2 items. At 0, I want to show only 1 item. I'm gonna save it and refresh. So as you can see, we have these different items, and the margin should be margin 24 pixel. So as you can see, so this should be, so I'm going to add another class, container class. So I want to give some space from the left and right. Okay, so I'm going to design this portfolio item. Here it is. I'm going to select portfolio item. I'm going to set the position to relative. Okay, then I'm going to select portfolio dot overlay image, sorry, and I'm going to set the height for the image to 100%. So I want the image to cover 100% space, and then I'm going to select portfolio item overlay. I'm going to set the position to absolute. Okay, from the top 0, from the left side 0, and I'm going to give a background color 00 for now, and I'm going to set the width and height to 100%. Okay, and I want the content to be in the center, so I'm going to say display flex. Oops. So I'm going to type display flex, align item center, and I'm going to change the flex direction to column. Okay, and justify content center. Okay, so now this is in the center, and I'm going to give transition as well, or 3 seconds. Okay, and I'm going to reduce the opacity to, I'm going to reduce the opacity to 0.7 or 8. Okay, so I'm going to hide this. Before hiding this, so I'm going to select portfolio item. So I'm going to select, let me select h4 class, and I'm going to change the color for the paragraph to something light. Okay, I'm going to reduce the contrast to something like this. Okay, and for the title, the color for the title is going to be white. So as you can see, and then I'm going to design this portfolio button. So I'm going to target the portfolio button. I'm going to set width to something like 50 pixel, height 50 pixel, and I'm going to set the display to flex, align item center, and justify content center. Okay, and I'm going to give a background color, it's brand color. Okay, I'm going to increase the size to 60, and I'm going to change the font size to 26 pixel. and I'm going to change the color for the icon to be white, and I'm going to give up. So I want this icon to be here in the corner in the right bottom corner. So I'm going to give a position absolute. From the bottom I want to give 24 pixel. From the right side I'm going to give 24 pixel. So as you can see, and also on hover, so I'm going to give a transition to this as well. Okay, so on hover, so I'm going to type portfolio button. On hover, I'm going to rotate the icon, transform, rotate. I'm going to say 45 degree, save it. So as you can see, so it should be rotate when I hover on the portfolio item. No, yeah, it is okay. And on hover, the text color should be white. Awesome. So I'm going to hide this overlay. So I'm going to say, so I'm going to push this from the left side negative 100%. Here it is, from the left side negative 100%. Okay. Position relative from the left side. Okay, this is not working, and I'm going to set the overflow to hidden. Okay, looking great. And when I hover on the portfolio item, I'm going to target the portfolio overlay class. From the left side is 0. So as you can see, we have that effect, but the effect is very fast, so you can set the transition to something like 4. Yeah, 4 is looking awesome. So I'm going to change the portfolio item. So I'm going to duplicate this portfolio item. So this should be 6, 5, 4, 3 and 2. I'm going to save it and refresh the page. So as you can see, we have these different portfolio items. Okay, looking great. And I don't know, I want these to be here, so I'm going to hide that. So I'm going to say dots false. Okay, this should be false. Okay, so as you can see, we don't have that nav dots. Okay, so let's see the responsiveness. Awesome. So now I'm going to design the team section, which is going to be very simple. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to create a section. I'm going to give ID team, and here I'm going to create a container. Inside this container, I'm going to copy the intro text. Okay, so I'm going to copy the intro text and I'm going to paste it right here. This will be our team. I'm going to give ID team. So I'm going to put inside this container, I'm going to create another 4 column grid. Okay, so I'm going to put a team member and I'm going to put an image. Okay, and here I'm gonna put a content class. So I'm gonna put h4, I'm gonna say h5. This will be the team member name, so his name is I don't know. So I'm going to copy the team member name. So copy it. I'm going to paste it, and here, oops, here I'm going to paste it right here. I'm going to copy the text and I'm going to paste it. So I'm going to duplicate this and I'm going to add the hover effect. Okay, so as you can see, so I'm going to select this 3-column grid. I'm going to paste it right here. So this will be 4-column grid. Okay, so here it is. Here I want to display 4-column. Okay, so when the screen is equal to this or smaller, I want to display two items. Okay, so I'm going to design the team section. So I'm going to select team member, then I'm going to select the content class. I'm going to give a padding to like 16 pixel and text align center. Okay, so as you can see, and also on the hover effect, I need to give a border bottom. So I'm going to search for hover effect. I'm going to give border bottom 3 pixels solid transparent, and for this border bottom color is going to be this brand color. Okay, save it. So as you can see, oops, border bottom color. So as you can see, we have this cool effect. So now I'm going to duplicate this team section. So I'm going to copy, duplicate. So I'm going to change the image 3 and 2, save it and refresh. Oops, what happened? Okay, so I need to copy this team member. So this should be 2, 3 and 4. Okay, so I'm going to remove first one. Save it. So as you can see, we have our team member section, and which is looking cool. So let's see the responsiveness. Okay, looking cool, nice. So after that, we have this testimonial section. So I'm going to design the testimonial section. I'm going to duplicate this portfolio section, and I'm going to paste it. So I'm going to remove these portfolio items. So I'm going to remove this portfolio item, and I'm going to rename this to review slider. Okay, I'm going to put review class. Okay, so here it is, and I'm going to put a div. Inside this div, I'm going to put a span. So this will, inside this span, I'm going to put the stars. So I'm going to search for star, and I'm going to copy this star, and I'm going to paste it right here. Okay, so in this pen, I'm going to put the text. So I'm going to say 5.4 reviews. Okay, so let's see. So I'm gonna duplicate this slide. Okay, I'm gonna rename this to review slider. So this will be review slider. Okay, so at this breakpoint I want to display only 2 items. Okay, just like that, and I'm gonna copy the text. So I'm gonna give a class stars, and here I'm gonna put a paragraph text. So I'm gonna put some lorem text. Okay, here I'm gonna create another div. So I'm gonna call it person, and here I'm gonna put an image. So I'm gonna use the same images that I have used for the team section, and here I'm going to create another div. So inside this div I'm going to create h5, and also I'm going to give it h4 class. Okay, and I'm going to give this name. The person name is John Doe on, and this person is UI designer. Okay, save it. So I'm going to design this review section, and here I'm going to design the review section. So review, I'm going to give a padding something like 24 pixels for now. Okay, so this is our review section. So I'm going to design this, and then I'm going to select the review stars, review dot stars, and I'm going to change the color to orange color. Okay, and then I'm going to select review dot person. I'm going to set the display property to flex. Okay, and then I'm going to select, I want the item to be in this center, line item center. So as you can see, and then I'm going to select the image, review person image. I'm going to set the width to 70 pixel. Awesome. Align item center, and I'm going to select review person. I'm going to select h4, h5 I think, h4 class. I'm going to set the margin bottom to 0. Okay, and I'm going to set this to h5. Okay, so this should be h5. Awesome. So I want to give some space. Also I'm going to select the paragraph. So review dot person paragraph, I don't need the margin, so you can see, and I'm going to set the margin. Yeah, it is looking good, and I want to increase the margin from h5, margin bottom 4 pixel or 6 pixel. So it is not increasing. I'm going to remove this. Okay, and I'm going to give a margin right, let's say 4 pixel or 14 pixel or 24 pixel. No, 24 is too much, so I think 18 will be fine. Yeah, it is 18 is looking fine. So I want to give some space between the paragraph and this image section. So I'm going to select the paragraph. From the top, I'm going to say margin from the top is going to be 18 pixel, left 0, bottom let's say 18 pixel, and right part 0. So I'm going to increase this to something like 28. So let's see. I shouldn't have selected this, so I'm going to set the margin to 0. So I want to select this paragraph. So I'm going to give a class saying, and I'm going to select this class review dot saying. I'm going to give a margin top 24 pixel, margin bottom 24 pixel. Okay, nice. I think I'm going to reduce it to something like 18. Okay, 18 is fine, and I'm going to reduce some text. Okay, looking great, and I'm gonna put this quote icon here. So the review color for this is going to be the brand color, so I'm gonna set this to the brand color. Okay, and I'm gonna give on hover effect. Awesome. So I'm gonna search for the quote icon. So I'm gonna copy this quote icon. I'm gonna place the quote icon here. I'm gonna give a class quote. Okay, so the review, I'm gonna give a position relative, and then I'm gonna select review. I'm gonna select the quote icon. I'm gonna give a position absolute, from the top 0, from the left, from the right, from the right to 0, and I'm gonna change the font size to something like 140 pixel. Okay, and I'm going to set the opacity to 0.1. Okay, so as you can see, we have this icon. So I'm going to duplicate this slider. Oops. I'm going to copy, I'm going to paste, and I'm going to paste it here. This should be, so I'm going to paste it a couple of times. So this should be 4, this should be 3, and this should be 2. So I have changed the images, as you can see. Awesome. So I'm going to change this. So this is not our portfolio, so I'm going to change this to our reviews or customers saying. Okay, looking great. So now I'm going to design the blog section. So the blog section is going to be very simple. So I'm going to copy the intro text and I'm going to create a container inside this blog section. I'm going to give ID blog, and here I'm going to create a container. I'm going to put the text right here. This will be our blog, and I'm going to display three column grid that I have already created, and I'm going to create a blog post. I'm going to put an image. So blog post 1, and I'm going to create a content class. I'm going to set this to h3, and I'm going to give a class h4, and I'm going to copy the text. So the text, this should be inside an anchor tag. I'm going to paste it right here, and I'm going to copy the text. Okay, and I'm going to create a button. I'm going to give a class button. So here read more. Okay, so we have an icon, so I'm going to place an icon, arrow. So I'm going to place this icon, copy it, and I'm going to paste it right here. So I'm going to design the blog section. So I'm going to type blog post. Then I'm going to target the content. I'm going to give a padding 24 pixel. Okay. Oh, what happened? Why the color is this purple color? Why this color is this purple color? Oh wow, why we have this purple color? So I'm going to give color this dark color. Okay, so as you can see, it is looking okay now, and I'm going to set this to h5. Okay, something like this, and I'm going to set hover effect. Okay, looking great, and I'm going to reduce the padding for this button. So I'm going to select blog post content button, padding 8 pixel, and on the left hand right 18 pixel. Awesome. So I'm going to duplicate this block, copy and paste, and I'm going to change the image. This should be image 2 and image 3. So we have these different blog posts, and here I'm going to put this contact us section. So I'm going to create a contact us section. I'm going to give ID contact. Okay, so here I'm going to create a container, and I'm going to put the intro text. Okay, so I'm going to put it here. So I'm going to say get in touch. Okay, here I'm going to create another so class 3 column grid. Okay, so I'm going to put contact info, I'm gonna put icon box. I'm gonna put an icon. So I'm gonna search for just call. So I'm gonna search for call. Or boom. So I'm gonna copy this, copy it, and I'm gonna paste it here. So I'm gonna type h6 and I'm gonna give a class h5, call us. So I'm gonna put a span tag here. So I'm gonna copy this boon number, I'm gonna paste it, and I'm gonna duplicate this. Okay, so I'm gonna copy this and I'm gonna paste it right here. Okay, so let's see. Okay, and I'm gonna put on our effect class. So as you can see, and I'm gonna duplicate this. So this should be map. So this should be map. I'm gonna name this to map, and this will be email or mail. Okay, and I'm going to change this to the location. It should be location. I'm going to copy this text here. I'm going to paste the text right here. Okay, I'm going to copy this email. I'm going to put it right here. Copy it and I'm going to paste it right here. Okay, so this should be mail us, our location, and I'm going to break this line here. So I'm going to type break line. Also I'm going to say break line, and here I'm going to say break line as well. Okay, so I'm going to select this contact info, and I'm going to set the text align to center, and I'm going to give a padding as well, 24 pixels. Okay, so as you can see, it is looking nice, and I'm going to create a contact us form. Okay, so I'm going to create a contact us form here. I'm going to give a class form. Okay, so I'm going to create a form group class. I'm going to put a label. This will be for name. So I'm going to type name, and here I'm going to put input. Our placeholder is going to be enter full name or enter your name. Okay, I'm going to duplicate this form group. This will be for email. Type is going to be email, and this is going to enter your email. And this should be for the subject. Enter your subject. Okay, this should be subject, and this text should be email. And I'm going to duplicate this one more time. This should be message, and I'm going to say text area. So I'm going to remove this column and ID class and name for now. I'm going to give class form control. Okay, I'm going to give a placeholder, enter your message. Okay, so I'm going to give this form control class to this input as well, and I'm going to put a button here, so this will be button. I'm going to give a class button, send message. Okay, so let's design this contact us form, this form. So I'm going to select form, I'm going to set the width to 100%. Okay, then I'm going to select form group and form control. Also I'm going to set the width for this to 100%. So as you can see, it is covering the whole space, and then I'm going to select input. I'm going to select the form control class, and I'm going to change the border color. So okay, so the background color for the form is going to be white, and I'm going to set on hover effect to this as well, hover effect. Okay, and I'm going to change the background color to something like a little bit this dark color. Okay, I'm gonna this should be something like this. Okay, save it, and I'm gonna remove the border color. I'm gonna give a border color 1 pixel solid transparent for now. Okay, so this is very dark, so I'm gonna reduce something like this. Okay, and I'm gonna give a padding as well to the form, padding like 60 pixel. Okay, and also I'm going to give a margin top 40 pixel. Okay, so we have some space now, and on hover, form control, on focus, I don't need the outline to 0. Okay, so then I'm going to select then I'm going to change the font family to Poppins, and I'm going to set I'm going to give a padding to 16 pixel. Okay, so as you can see, we don't have some space between these. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to select form group. I'm going to set the margin bottom to 16 pixel, or so also I'm going to set this to display in line block, and I'm going to give something like this. Okay, so the form group, okay, so we have some space now, and I'm going to increase the font size. So font size something like 16 pixel or 14. Okay, so I think the color is very, so I'm going to reduce the color contrast something like this. Okay, this is looking fine. And I'm going to change the button font family as well, so I'm going to select button class, font family to Poppins. Okay, looking cool. And when I on focus, I'm going to give a border color to this brand color. So as you can see on focus. Okay, so I'm gonna embed Google Map. So I'm gonna search for Google Map, and then I'm gonna click on this first link. Okay, so then I'm gonna click here, and I'm gonna say direction to here. Okay, then I'm gonna click on share and embed. I'm gonna copy this and I'm gonna paste it right here. Okay, I'm going to remove this width and height, and I'm going to give a class Google Map. Okay, so I'm going to target the Google Map class. I'm going to set the width to 100%, and I'm going to give minimum height like 400 pixel. Save it, and let me refresh the page. Okay, so as you can see, we have this map, and below the map I'm going to create a footer section. So I'm going to create a section. Inside this I'm going to create a footer, and here I'm going to create a footer top. I'm going to create a container, and I'm going to create a 4-column grid. Okay, so I already have created this class 4-column grid, and in the first column I'm going to put, so I'm going to give here I'm going to create a class footer widget. So I'm going to put an image. This will be logo light. Okay, here I'm gonna put some text, lorem 16 15. Okay, so I'm gonna duplicate this footer widget class. Okay, so I'm gonna in this place I'm gonna rename this to h5, name a class h4. I'm gonna give it so I'm gonna, this will be company, and here I'm gonna put some unordered list item, and I'm gonna create anchor tag. So this will be home. So I'm gonna duplicate this home services, our work, and okay, so I'm going to duplicate this widget. Okay, so this will be more. Okay, so I'm going to refresh the page. Okay, so as you can see, we have this links, and I'm going to type here services UI design, web design, and I'm going to type color theory. Okay, so I'm going to design the footer. So I'm going to select footer top, I'm gonna give a background color star color. Okay, then I'm gonna select footer top, select the image. I'm gonna set the width to unset. Okay, and I'm gonna give a padding top, 100 pixel. Okay, I'm gonna give a padding bottom, 30 pixel for now. Okay, then I'm gonna select footer top H5, color to white, and then I'm gonna select footer top links, and the color will be this color. Okay, H4, this should be H4. Okay, and on hover I'm gonna change the color, so the color should be brand color. Okay, so as you can see, I'm gonna give the color to 77. Okay, and I'm gonna change the color to white. Awesome. So I'm gonna create a footer bottom. So this will be footer bottom, and I'm gonna copy the text from the finished project. So I'm going to select footer bottom, and I'm going to give a background color #111, text align center, and select footer bottom, and select paragraph, and I'm going to remove the margin 0. Okay, and I'm going to give a padding top 30 pixel, padding bottom 30 pixel as well. Or I'm going to increase footer top footer bottom padding to something like 60 pixel. Okay, so let's see the responsiveness. Okay, so I'm gonna show this on different viewport width. Okay, so let's see on tablet, looking great. So as you can see, and I'm going to show this on mobile. Okay, on mobile it is also looking great, but as you can see the typography, so I'm going to reduce the typography on small devices. So here I'm going to select at media, I'm going to give a maximum, I'm going to select, I'm going to give a maximum width like 600 pixel. Then I'm going to select .h1. I'm going to change the font size to, let's say, 38 pixel. Okay, so as you can see the size has now changed, and H2 font size is going to be 32 pixel. Okay, and H3 font size is going to be 24 pixel, and H4 is going to be let's say 20 pixel. Okay, looking great. So as you can see at this breakpoint, I need to reduce some padding. So because of the padding, the form is not looking good. So I'm gonna search for form. Okay, so I'm gonna say add media maximum width 768 pixel. So I'm gonna select the form and I'm gonna set the padding to 24 pixel. Okay, looking cool. Okay guys, so that is it for this video. I hope you guys have enjoyed the video. So if you did, make sure to like the video, and thank you for watching, and yeah, see you in the next video.